Now, for more on the situation in Ethiopia, we have contacted Farama Alim, a senior Kenyan politician and an expert on Horn of Africa affairs. Thank you very much, Mr. Maalim, for your time.
Thank you.
Now, our first question. Ethiopians are protesting against U.S. interference in the country's ongoing Tigray conflict. What's the extent of this meddling, and what are the interests of Washington in this conflict?
Washington has a very powerful, very deep-rooted and old interest in Ethiopia and in the Horn of Africa in general, but in particular in Ethiopia, because for close to 30 years, the TPLF regime that controlled Ethiopia had worked as a surrogate, as a kind of the blue-eyed boys of the American foreign policy in Africa. And they were playing the role that Israel plays for America in the Middle East. They were playing it for the Horn of Africa. And so when you lose such a powerful ally who does all the biddings for you, it is costly, and they would want them back. But not because of the interest of Ethiopia or the interest of the continent, the wider continent, or the Horn of Africa. That is purely for American strategic interests. And the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which also controlled Ethiopia through the EPRDF, had waged a war against Eritrea. That was a very costly war in which they wanted to recapture Eritrea and exercise that hegemony. And that was also done with the tacit approval, the support, the financing, and all the elements of the Americans and the Western countries for that purpose. So Eritrea sees the meddling of the Horn of Africa by America and its Western allies, and has seen it from the beginning. It maintained its own independence, small as it may be. It is the only country that has stood firm and that has said a no, a big no with a capital N, to that meddling. Right now, the Americans are trying to revive the TPLF again. You don't forget, Americans gave billions and billions of dollars in aid to TPLF, which was not accountable.
Eritrea says that the U.S. wants to resuscitate the remnants of the TPLF regime, which ruled Ethiopia for nearly 30 years. Now, does this imply that the U.S. is at odds with the current government of Abiy Ahmed?
The gains that were done by Abiy Ahmed has made massive strides and massive gains in the interest of the people of Horn of Africa in the wider sense. That includes Eritrea and Somalia, and also in the interest of the Ethiopian people themselves. I mean, that is not something that Americans would be happy with. Americans don't care what happens to the populations of any country. You've seen what they did in Libya. You've seen what they've done in Iraq. You've seen what they've done in Syria. You've seen what they're doing right now to Yemen. So they don't care what happens to the 120 million Ethiopians. They only care about their own interests and this bunch of a small minority that they have been using all this time to do the bidding for them. And it's precisely because of that they want to bring them back. But they can't bring them back. Ethiopians are known to resist any form of domination.
Now, Western countries are accusing Ethiopia of using starvation as a weapon of war. Ethiopia's UN ambassador, Tai Atske-Selesi Amde, has categorically rejected these accusations.
When someone labels us that we are using starvation as an instrument of weapon or war, it indeed pains us. It brings back a terrible memory of hunger. So, if, as I said in the council, if we did it, of course, we will definitely carry the albatross around our neck. The guilt will be on us.
So they will continue meddling, but I don't think they can go far. They tried to meddle in the internal affairs of Eritrea for many years, for about 30 years now, and they lost. So Eritrea and Ethiopia now has also woken up to the realization, and they have a good leader in the name of Abiy Ahmed, who cares about his people, who cares about his continent, who cares about his wider region of Horn of Africa.
Now, our last question. Are Western countries pursuing a policy to balkanize Ethiopia by backing the TPLF, which is pursuing a secessionist agenda?
They will pursue this secessionist idea to the extent of empowering them to take over again power at the center in Addis Ababa. I don't think the Americans really want to create small countries in Ethiopia. No, they want to use them right now as a secessionist movement. But the ultimate objective, the same way when the TPLF came to power, they came in as the Tigray People's Liberation Front and were agitating to secede from Ethiopia, but they never seceded from Ethiopia because they realized they had an opportunity right now to use the resources of that country and to basically brutalize it the way they brutalized it for all those years. And I think the Americans also want to use them to do the same again. Roll back again into Addis Ababa, take over the reins of power using the tanks and the weapon and the resources and then all that's given to them by America and its own other mercenary surrogates like the leadership right now in Egypt.